It is said that the people of Tours speak the clearest and most uncomplicated French in the country. So, if you want clarity, then this is where you come. If you look or ask most people, you'll think it's clear that Chris Froome is going to win this Tour de France. And after the time trial yesterday, you'd be hard pushed to argue. However, there is plenty of ambition still left within the GC contenders. And when it comes to the sprint teams, well, a day could not have been better made for them than this. Wide open spaces, it is destination Tour, and a longish day as well, 218 kilometres, but at a pace. And so far, we've been cruising along at just over 45 kilometres per hour. We've been in this area previously, and fast speed it was. Cipollini took it that day. Back in '99, just over 50 kilometres per hour. We're going a lot faster than that as we approach the grand finale today. Not a very nice double 90-degree right-hander in the last 650 metres, thrown in there to destabilise the sprint trains. And so who will get derailed today? Well, it's unlikely to be Chris Froome. His Sky Boys all back together as a functioning operating unit and doing a fine job for the man who wears the yellow jersey on your screens right now. Well, we'll have plenty of talking space today as we roll along in this bright sunshine. It was a cloudy start today, but it seems that the weather systems that have been hanging around France, almost locked on, are likely to bless us with fine sunshine and blue skies until the very end of the Tour. So let's hope that the boys from the France Meteo office are getting it right. They've got a good chance. The weather forecasters in France are military based, and so yes, I think their reasons for getting it right are probably far reaching. Right now the peloton is starting to reach out for these guys. We have 5 up the road, and they've been up there reasonably early. That's Romain Sicard of Euskaltel just going out of your picture with the orange jersey. Second on the Dauphiné stage 5 a couple of years ago, and Nico Vorgondi, I think it was, that actually got the better of him at that point. There you see Astana's Francesco Gavazzi. 6 into Albi, don't forget, and also going well on that day was Juan Antonio Flecha, and he is here once more. In fact, it was Calvi on stage 3 that Fletcher really shone, but he's been in the breakaways again and again. Oh, and we've had a tumble. It's easy done on a day such as this, and unfortunately, we already have some prisoners yet again. That's Genius, by the looks of things, and Bel Kadri of AG2R. Bel's had his moments, that's for sure, but then again, in a long tour, everybody is likely to. Time to take a comfort break while your bike's being fixed. You may as well fix your comfort. So apologies if that's causing blushes. And there it is, just a little knock out the back. Oh, do you know what? He did a good job of rolling out of that one. Got his shoulder out of the way and essentially did a judo roll. So good luck to him. They'll be refilling the water bottles and he'll refill himself a little bit later. 113 kilometres to go, 6 minutes and 29. Sean, this day was never going to be a topographical challenge, but it has its own elements, and when we come out from these woodlands, we may well see that the wind has more of an impact than perhaps it has over the last couple of days.
Well, I think it's going to be a nervous day once again, because we're in that area. You know, when you go to Tour, you relate Paris Tour, of course, and it's always an event. In the end, you can get wins, and there is sections where you come out very open, and you know, it's nothing different today. And we can see here, you know, the racing is a bit nervous at the moment, and still with 112 kilometres to go, it's going to be that way, you know, for all the day. And it's just in the final, I think it gets more of a header in the final. The last 20-25 kilometres they turn a little bit, and it seems to be, but at the moment you can see there's a little bit of a side wind there, and everybody is very nervous, and all the teams are just trying to stay to the front. And as we go to the point where a team could attack you, well, then it's going to be more nervous again.
Chateau Bazouge, very fine example of round tower building from the 11th century on the banks of Loire. And so you come out of your round tower, you get in the water, you do a bit of trout tickling, and yeah, you enjoy your dinner, of which we have been doing time and time again on this wonderful event, the 100th Tour de France. You join us on what is likely to be an extraordinarily quick day in terms of pace, with a crescendo of something rather dramatic. They're about to head into the feed zone as you join us. Let's remind you that you can speak to us on Twitter, and there'll be plenty of time to take your questions today. It's at Carlton Kirby, and if you hashtag it Eurosport Cycling, then it does get shared by the greater family of Eurosport. I have something for you as well today. There is a competition, and you can win Sean Kelly's autobiography called Hunger, which is flying off the shelves. We've managed to hold on to 10 of them. We had to form a security phalanx around it because the books are so popular. There are 10 of them up for grabs. We'll be talking about Sean's book a little bit later on. We do have Sean Kelly, the great man, of course, live throughout this Tour de France. A question is going to be posted on Twitter on the Eurosport account. Now, get this in your heads. At Eurosport UK TV. So that's at Eurosport UK TV. And they will post the question. We won't be asking the question on air. It will be there on Twitter. The first 10 respondents to at Eurosport UK TV, and you must hashtag it Eurosport Cycling, by the way. If you do both of those things with your answer, then you'll win a Sean Kelly book if you're one of the first 10. So watch out for that. So hashtag Eurosport Cycling as part of your message. But the destination, so follow it basically, and then you'll get the question plopped into your Twitter account, is at Eurosport UK TV. 10 Kelly books up for grabs called Hunger. There you go. It's nervous, Sean. It's twitchy, and this is the moment he went down. Now watch the shoulder come out of the way. That's good work. One little dab of the foot, and he twisted himself round, and he saved serious injury there.
Yes, well, maybe a little bit of luck the way we could see the way the bike turned there, so he was thrown off the bike, and he was turning as he went down before he hit the road. Sometimes it's just a little bit of luck. You don't, get the opportunity or get the chance to plan what way or decide what way you're going to fall. And he came out quite well because he was going to fast race right there, and he seems to be okay. Just the bike has a little bit of damage.
We'll take a break. Back live in a moment. Welcome back. The focus today naturally going to be on the sprinters. So Kittel, Greipel, Cavendish. Makes you wonder and hope that Mark Cavendish is reasonably well received. It's been a difficult time for him since his crash the other day, for which, rather strangely, some blamed him for, as far as we were concerned, totally blameless in the situation. But anyway, opinions vary. That's what characterises opinion. But it's not been a pleasant time for Mark, as I'm sure you've read in the press. He's been booed and indeed worse. So today, I'm just hoping it's not had any kind of negative impact on him. Sean, he does suffer occasionally from sensitivity, Mark Cavendish, and I'm just hoping that he manages to clear his mind for the job at hand today. Of course, sure he will, but do you think there's any chance of any sort of negative impact as a remnant of that incident?
No, I think the problem was in the sprint. Some of the TV stations, did make the calculation. They were saying that Mark Cavendish was all the problem of the crash, but yeah, we've seen that, and when you see the overhead shots, well, it's the risk of sprinting, and we could see, one rider had done his job to lead out, for Kittel, and Mark Cavendish was coming up, and he was moving a little bit to his right, and of course Cavendish was trying to get into the slipstream, and he was going to his left, and you touch, and I think Cavendish was coming at a faster pace and just put out his shoulder a little bit, and down the rider goes. But yesterday there was a lot of talk about it at the finish of the time trial during the day, and I think the big majority of people were saying, well, that is the risk of sprinting. Those things happen, unfortunately, and somebody crash. But you know, when the spectators hear that on a TV station, and you know, they just get on sides then. And yesterday, unfortunately for Mark, he got a little bit of a hard time during the time trial, and it's easy to do during the time trial, because we did see yesterday out on the road, you know, there was people all along the route, you know, and if there's somebody, a group of people, you know, that want to get a rider, they can, you know, shout abuse at you as you go by. And in a time trial, it's easy to do it. When in the big bunches, it's not going to happen today. I think Mark will get over it, and you know, the race is on his side. I think all the teams are on his side as well. They all understand the situation, and I think it's a thing of the past. And the thing is, for Mark Cavendish now, he has to get on with the race here. It's not been the best of a race for him with the number of sprints we've had, and you know, he'll be hoping today he can rectify it and get a second stage victory.
Hope so. We do everyone a dose of good, and those people who gave him a dousing of some unmentionable fluid yesterday, yes, also put them back in their box, we hope. Time for a lighter mood. Mike.
Yes, a lighter mood and some more memories of previous tours. Remember this one? Think Bernard Hinault. Oh, yeah, he said, for me, it's that last time trial between Metz and Nancy, actually. The victory on the Champs-Élysées with Joop Zoetemelk. We were two little guys on such a big boulevard. Oh, great memory for me.
Crossing the line in Chartres last year to win the time trial, in the last time trial of the Tour de France.
Il y a le Tour de France, évidemment, 60.
Raymond Poulidor says the 64 Tour de France, of course, with just 2 or 3 kilometres from the finish. We still didn't know who would win between Jacques Anquetil and me. Thibaut Pinot talking about last year. Oh, my victory at Pont-Montreuil was a great moment. Magic. Remember Marc Madiot shouting for me, the helicopter above? Everything went very quickly. Then the journalists at the finish, the photographers rushing towards me. Oh, memories that will remain for a long time. Alpe d'Huez for me, a legendary mountain, and knowing that on those last 250 metres there's that last long straight, and the crowd's there for you because you're the first rider to arrive, and for them, even better, you're French. Then I was told that hadn't happened since 1986, the year of my birth. Many things go through your mind at moments like that, and there's that moment when you lift your arms, you're the winner. Emotions that you can only have in sport.
C'est des émotions qu'on peut avoir que dans le sport, je pense.
And finally, to Mark Cavendish.
Also my first win.
Congratulations, guys.
It's going to be a special moment, you know. You won a stage of the Tour de France. Doesn't matter how many stages you win. If you win one stage of the Tour de France in your career, you're kind of made.
Well, he's made it a few more than that, hasn't he? And he will be hoping, of course, to put all the bad memories of yesterday behind him by winning yet another one today. We shall see. Back to you, Carlton.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, fingers crossed for Mark. You know, nobody deserves that kind of treatment that he got yesterday. Today's another day, and there are plenty more to come. And don't start writing off the challenge that's going to be meted out to Chris Froome. Nobody's given up. Absolutely not. And emotions, although they run high in the Tour de France, it's part of the package. They do also change. Remember the booing of Alberto Contador a few years ago? Nothing but cheers for the man. They're all screaming him on and hoping that he will become part of the GC contention late on. If Chris Froome does get a slip-up, we'll be having a word about what the French press have been saying about Chris Froome and why it's not over yet. Apparently they've got 7 reasons in L'Equipe this morning, so we'll go to that soon. Anthony Delaplace, there he is from Soyer-Sun, young lad, 23 years of age, and yeah, 5th in the youth classification in Norway. He part of our escape group today. He's in the company of some much more senior riders. Juan Antonio Flecha is the oldest of the escape group as you look at the Chateau de Durtal. Flecha, yes, here again, 6th into Calvi. He's been very much a part of the escape pushes again and again and again, and well, he's at it again. Took a stage, of course, on the Tour de France, but some time ago. It was into Toulouse in 2003, so a 10-year gap. Should Flecha be successful, and indeed, of course, the break deliver what it's trying to at the moment. Looks like their card is marked. They're up towards the 9-minute mark. It's now down to 6 minutes and 10. Manu Mori is here, 32-year-old from Lamprey. Been a very quiet Tour de France for Lamprey. They don't like it. Damiano Cunego yesterday in the time trial, not at his best at all, and in fact finished nearly 4 minutes down on Tony Martin's winning time, 3 minutes and 51. And he, don't forget, is their GC declared rider. So that didn't happen for them today. So obviously the direct sport he said get in the break, and Mori has done just that. Former Sonia Duval. So you'll see the pink and blue of Lamprey on the back of Mori in the break today. He was third in the King of Mountains in the Tour of Switzerland recently, so not bad, but today is a completely different kind of terrain, as you know. Roman Sicard of Euskaltel, we mentioned him earlier on, second in the Dauphiné, stage of, I should say, in a couple of years ago. Nico Vongondi beat him on that day, stage 5, I think it was, if you care to look. And Francesco Gavazzi of Astana in their pale blue is also up the road as part of the break. 6 into Albi, so he's been running well. Second in the GC in the Tour of Beijing last year, behind Tony Martin. Well, magic span of time. I'm sure that's perhaps a little unkind to Philippe Gilbert. This man is a powerhouse, and it looks like it might well be absolutely correct. He's got nose dip on his saddle. And that's about the last thing you want, Sean. You need to be very, very comfortable in your office chair. And clearly he had a moment there. They just readjusted the nose of his saddle. It was dipping down.
Yes, well, it's not the first time we've seen Philippe Gilbert change. He changed a bike on the earlier stage of the Tour de France as well. Yeah, any little bit of movement, of course, you're going to feel it. And when you still have 100 kilometers to go, you know, the riders, they can feel that little bit. If it's only a fraction off, and making the adjustment here. And you know, it's amazing the way the mechanic can make the adjustment as you go along here. They can put the saddle up or down. If they want to put the front of the saddle down a bit or up a bit, they can do that, you know, so quickly and so easily moving along. And you know, it's not a problem for the mechanic and the riders. Some of them, they can go on, but otherwise, the moment there's a little bit of difference in the position, well, they feel it immediately. And I think Philip is the one that like to have his position right.
Absolutely. Millimetric. You feel it, especially if it's what you do every single day. Thanks for all your questions, by the way. Colin G on Twitter has, while these guys are going through the feed zone, we'll take a few questions. What do you think of the decision not to invite Mark Cavendish to the Boxmeer Criterium after the stage 10 incident? To be honest, Colin, we had a chat about this earlier when the news of the Boxmeer withdrawal of the invitation, and we think rather than being malicious, it's for security reasons, Sean.
Well, I think yes, for the organisers, they're concerned, of course, with the Dutch spectators. They can really get aggressive at the criteriums, and
especially Boxmeer.
And Boxmeer, and I remember years ago, Boxmeer is the one which is after Tour appearance criterium. It's there for a long time, and I think that's the reason the organisers maybe feel that it wouldn't be the place to take Mark Cavendish. And unfortunately, for Mark, he'll not be able to perform there. And the riders, they like to do that. They like to make a couple of appearance races after Tour, and they're enjoyable as well. They're hard events, but still, you get the supporters out there, and they're really great events. But unfortunately, with Mark getting into difficulty with a Dutch rider, I think the organisers decided maybe it'd be better that he not compete there. But there's many other ones as well. It's not the only one. There's quite a number in Belgium, so I'm sure on the same day he could probably go to Belgium or somewhere else.
The Boxmeer, Sean Kelly famously had, I think, about 12 Dutchmen on top of his car. That was before it even started. Was it after that you always drove with the roof rack?
Well, I think there was a lot more than 12, actually. It was the time when I joined the PDM team in 1990. I won the green jersey and went to Boxmeer. And of course, when you're riding for a Dutch team, you get a huge amount of exposure in Holland. And I remember I just rocked up at the criterium, an hour and a half before the event, and the people were after been drinking for quite a number of hours, and they just crowded all over the car. They got up on the bonnet, they got up on the roof, they were just everywhere, and I could not see out of the car anymore.
We've got a moment. Let's have a look, see if we can pick it out for you. Smikulis. Yeah, just getting the bike straight. Looks like he's taking a tumble. It's been a little bit of this. When you get through the feed zone, Sean, there's a lot of bidons flying all over the place. And in fact, it's actually easy to get tangled up with your own bag. If you actually lose it, it looks like you might well have done. It can get tangled in the chain set, and you may well just go down. He looks all right, but he's lost his appetite.
Well, I think the problem with the Musette again, you know, he did not maybe just take the Musette right, or maybe the Masseur as well. You know, if you arrive quickly and the Masseur haven't picked you out, and then you call the Masseur, he's trying to, you know, he kind of handled the Musette very quickly, can hit your handlebars and down you go. And we can see here that, you know, he's got some road rash from this one. You know, it's going to happen, and you know, it happens all the times, and the feed station is always a concerning time for everybody.
Well, last thing you want to do is squash your gingerbread. Yes, there are a number of choices which you can have in your musette, and they usually give them a bit of a treat, especially on a day that's where the mind drifts ever so slightly. Guilty of that myself occasionally, as you know. Today, well, it was reported there was a headwind, but the wind direction of the windometers suggest it's actually a cross headwinds moving to side wind, and then at the end, as they sort of go dip south and then head back into Tours, more of a headwind in the run-in. So if it is a headwind, it'll allow them all to come back together, and if that happens, then the sprint trains will get themselves in order. And Ian at Cycling Betting says, will there be the last two corners cause carnage today? It's a big danger, but it's wide open sort of highway as we get to our destination today into Tours, and so you can take them quickly. But yes, you're absolutely right, two 90-degree right-handers within the last 650 meters, so they go into the Flamme Rouge at pace, and then 250 meters or so later they really are into the business end of what is going to be a hectic run. It might destabilize the sprint trains. Whether it will cause an accident or not, well, let's keep our fingers crossed that it does not. When we looked at the map, we thought definite accident waiting to happen, but when we actually came here to the finish line, we thought maybe just a little bit more benign than that. They can take it at speed, and it may well go safely. Welcome back. 95 kilometers to go of a classical transition day, I think you might say, but with a sting in the tail, potentially, and one for the sprinters, which is why you're seeing the classic trio up front. Not the men themselves, you understand, but Argus Shimano, Lotto Belisol, and, of course, yes, the ubiquitous, ever-present, and never to be discounted Omega Pharma Quickstep. Mark Cavendish is the man that they're working for. Team Argos in their almost white livery, working for Marcel Kittel, possibly John Degenkolb, but not lumpy enough today. And Kittel's going so well, and he's getting a bit greedy. He's on for a hat-trick, don't forget. Not 3 in a row, I understand. But Andre Greipel, yes, also very much in the frame. Winner into Montpellier, Andre Greipel, and apparently well up for it. The other day, I think he caught himself out by bidding for the intermediate sprint points to no avail, and then just had something of a deficit when it came to the line. Beaten by Kittel into San Malo. Mark Cavendish third on that day, but also colliding with Tom Wieler's and causing much consternation, particularly amongst the Dutch, who I think misread it, saying he deliberately hit him. Absolutely not. Why would you do that when you're trying to keep as much momentum going at all as you possibly can towards the line? There'll be more, I'm sure. These are the men up the road. They formed the break very early on. Delaplace from Sawyer Sun, there he is in the green and white. Fletcher from Vacansoleil in the blue with the yellow starburst coming to the fore right now. Lampreys Mori in the pink and blue, as well as Sigar from Euskaltel in the orange. They're rolling through nicely, as I'm calling them. And Gavazzi of Astana. There is Andy Schleck, a man who was yesterday, by all accounts, a bit fed up with himself. 4 minutes and 44 seconds down in the time trial on Tony Martin's winning time, and it wasn't good, Sean.
No, you know, for Schleck, as always, the time trials are the difficult one for him, but I think he was a little bit further down than he would have liked to be yesterday. You know, it's a huge amount of minutes down, considering the time trial was, just over 30 kilometres, but the general classification, I'm not sure if Schleck is going to be capable of doing anything here. We'll have to wait and see. Can he get, you know, into better shape as the race go on, and a stage win, I think, and he's talking about that. He's mentioned the other part of the race. That seems to be his target.
Well, let's hope so. Mike, you have a report about the crazy publicity caravan, I understand.
Yeah, it's sadly it's something which we never get to see, because it sets off each day. Hello. Around about 2 hours before the actual race, and it usually finishes about an hour and a half before the race, and it's as much awaited from many people's points of view as the riders. The advertising caravan really entertains millions of spectators every day. It's spread out over around about 20 kilometres. Can you believe that? There are nearly 200 bizarre vehicles. It's a festive, multicoloured atmosphere, a real source of popular entertainment, and it's become one of the Grand Boucles trademarks. In the beginnings of it, back in 1930, it was created in a way of trying to find a new source of funding for the race. And believe it or not, when it first appeared, the caravan came after the riders, believe it or not. This is true, it came after the race, when everybody was thinking, oh, we'd best go home now. And then the caravan came along. And there are only a few brand names in it in those days. Oh, I love that one, do you? Anyway, over the years, the popular success of the caravan has proved very consistent. It's grown and grown, and look at this. Great fun. And every year now, there's around about 40 brands. They rival with each other, displaying the products and giving away little freebies, and viewed by millions and millions of people. Great fun. It's a shame we don't see a little bit more of it, but there we are. We're back to the race again.
Well, you fixed that for us, Mike. Good view of it. The Kittel girls, incidentally, who've got the big micro sprayers, they produce a sort of a mist of the mineral water. The crowds absolutely love it. There was a suggestion that maybe it might be a great idea to actually provide a Kittel arch for the cyclists. Sometimes they do that in time trials, in triathlons in very, very hot countries. Just to give the, when they're in the running element, a chance to sort of cool down a little bit, alter the core temperature. But on a day like today, it'd be absolutely impossible. Not necessary either. It's nice and cool. You can get yourself a bit of sunburn when it's like this. The sun's equally as strong and reaching its peak at this time of year, as we've crested the solstice, as you know. So as a result, you can feel a little bit better off than you actually are, and there are indications right now that it is turning into a side wind, and the wind has dropped to 20 kilometres per hour. Yeah, watch out for the sunburn if you happen to be visiting and it is a breezy day. You can get yourself into trouble. Usually it's the Celts, such as myself and Sean Kelly, that end up looking like strawberries at the end of the evening. While the French say, you have caused the sun, je pense. Yes, absolutely. We have. Leave us alone while we put on the after sun. 91 kilometres to go, 5 minutes and 52. Sean, they're doing a proper job of controlling this. It was up to around about 9 minutes, and it's a steady decline in the gap.
Yes, well, unfortunately for the breakaway, it's not a great job, because their advantage is, coming down all the time. We can see under 6 minutes, and it was around the 9 minutes, the maximum they allowed it. And again, the breakaway, they have, put in a big effort today, getting away at 3 kilometres and being out there for a long time. But when you see the power of the riders in the front of the bunch, the teams with sprinters are controlling once again, and still with 90 kilometres to go, they're going to have a huge task. I think an impossible task to go all the way to the finish of 5 breakaway riders, but they're still working well together. They're going to keep on trying, but just the power of the main peloton is going to be too much for them in the end.
Joe Pritchard says, has a mechanic ever fallen out of a car window while working on a bike? Yes. I haven't seen it for a while though, Sean, but they do. How do they counterbalance themselves? I know there was one team we looked in, and they'd actually nailed a strop of leather on the seat, which he hooked his feet under, so he could actually lie out with his torso to sort of counterbalance himself. That seemed to work. I suppose if it came dislodged, then he'd get himself into bother. I haven't seen it for a while, though, Sean. They're clearly taking great care. Windows these days are generally set higher for crash testing reasons, and as a result, I think there's more to lean on and less chance. Have you ever witnessed it?
No, I've never seen a mechanic fall out of a car. If you go back 25 years ago, actually the right-hand rear door was taken out, and it was just a plastic sheeting. Then you could open it as you go along, and that was when Peugeot was supplying the vehicles to all the teams, and it was a regulation then that you had to use the official, the organisers' sponsor, car sponsor. So the teams had to use, you know, the Tour de France provided vehicles, which were Peugeot, and that was quite dangerous. When you look at it, you know, you could open this. It was sort of a plastic, a see-through, and you could open that totally, so you had no rear door at all. Now we can see there the mechanics hang out when the riders have a problem, but yeah, the window does go down fully, but you can balance very well, and of course when you're leaning out, I think, you know, you still have your feet under the seat in front of you, so you can hold on some way. It will be, you know, really almost impossible for a mechanic to fall out onto the road.
I'm trying to remember when it was I saw it. I was thinking Burkina Faso, but I think it was actually in Langkawi, around a corner. Slow speed, but yeah, popped out. There you go. He was all right. 88.3 kilometres, 5 minutes and 36 is the gap. We're going to be heading to a commercial break fairly shortly. Thanks for all of your questions, by the way. They've been great to receive, and we will be answering plenty more today as the amble, at least for the time being, towards Tours goes on. The Vittel ladies are just coming by, and everyone is screaming to be sprayed with their mineral water product. Is it a product if you just retrieve it? I'm not sure. There you go. Question to dwell on. What's in the water bottles? Can you please tell us? Mostly just water. Some do have isotonic drinks, though, along the way. And you can ask on a cold day, and sometimes you receive warm tea with a bit of honey. There you are. Tea and sympathy. That's what they're looking for. They certainly were on the Giro d'Italia this year. Appalling weather. Didn't dampen the drama. Thankfully, on the Tour de France, we've got sunshine and drama. What a nice combination. We'll take ourselves a commercial break, and then we'll be back live on Eurosport, your home of cycling, after this. Welcome back. Mark Cavendish tweeting before he set off today that the weather's been baking hot, and this is the first day that it's not been so, and he's actually quite pleased. So he sounds chipper, which is exactly what we'd hope. And it is the sprinters teams that are doing most of the chasing on at the moment. The gap is hovering around about 5.5 minutes. A little bit more than that as we speak, as Omega Pharma Quickstep Mark Cavendish's boys that are just on the nose at the moment. They're all sharing duties, along with Sky, who are looking after Chris Froome and just making sure that nothing silly happens. So 5 men up the road. Just a reminder, there is a Eurosport competition coming on Twitter. And you can enter the competition to win Sean Kelly's book, Hunger, which is the autobiography that's just hitting the shelves now. If you follow on Twitter at Eurosport UK TV, and you will see the question pop up there during this stage. And when it happens and you have the answer, you must hashtag it Eurosport Cycling, and then you could be a happy winner. Here's a winner of old.
Chris already has a really big margin now, and that's, you know, as a GC rider, that's the ultimate what you want. You can afford to, with so much margin, you can afford to relax a little bit, not much, but because you have that buffer there. And then of course then it goes on. There's a lot of people stacked close together, you know, between Alberto and Valverde, Cruisinger and so on, and that's that makes it interesting in two ways. Are they going to collaborate together to crack Chris, or are they going to fight each other and race for second, which would make it better for Chris Froome? And then and of course, yeah, how his team performed the other day on the stage to Bagnaia de Bigorre. If that happens again, yeah, Chris could find himself exposed.
So we are looking for interesting next 10 days.
And one thing that's sure in cycling, anything can happen. So that's for sure. But looking like going back to what I said with the margin that Chris has and the strength that he showed yesterday, and in Axe Trois de Man, he'll be hard to crack, and there that depends. Yeah, will Valverde and so on race for second, or will they still try and race for the win?
Okay, thank you very much.
There we are. It is certainly not over yet, and I've got to tell you that despite having a long editorial when Froome went so well in the mountains up Aix-Trois-Domaines and took the stage when they said, "No, it's all over," all of a sudden they've woken up to the fact that this Tour de France, and indeed any Tour de France, can be very changeable. Notably Bigorra the following day, when Chris Froome's team essentially fell away and left him on his own. And so today in L'Equipe they have been asking questions, or indeed they've listed 7 reasons why it's not over yet. Sean, those reasons.
Well, I think they've went out and tried to find reasons, and they've managed to come up with 7. I don't know if 7 are all are valuable at all. There's a lot of them. I don't think they mean anything here. But I suppose the most important ones is if we see the teams riding together, that is one thing I think is possible in the Alpine stages. Froome is just so strong in the Pyrenees, the mountaintop finishes. He was just untouchable. The time trial yesterday, he took a big block of time out of the other favourites. So now he's out there in a real strong position, and it will be interesting to see what happened in the Alps. The team also, that's another thing which they're zoning in on, because we did see the team on day 2 in the Pyrenees, where they were so strong in the first day of the Pyrenees. Then the next day they just fell apart, and that's another valuable one if that happens again. But I think those things, you get that chance maybe once in a big tour. You need to be really lucky to get a second occasion.
Absolutely. So the 7 are a coalition formed between the teams to beat Froome. I think that's possibly naturally going to happen. They reckon that Quintana is the man to attack in the Alps. Well, he tried, didn't he, when Froome was isolated and indeed failed. About the weakness being showed by Team Sky, well, they're back, aren't they? Well, we think anyway. And the other reasons, one of which was Froome didn't finish the time trial strongly. How bizarre is that? Here's Alberto Contador, one of the men who could stop him, you might think.
Yeah, Carlton, we've got Contador, as you can see, being asked about future prospects, but particularly the time that he lost in the time trial yesterday. Well, yeah, it's a big gap. Froome did a very, very good ride. It was crazy for all of us to lose time, and for him to get so close to Tony Martin. We were all a bit surprised at that. We didn't think that the gaps between him and the rest of us would be so good, but I'm still feeling okay. I'm still feeling fine today. I still think I'm in contention with all the guys for the general classification, and I shall continue to get stronger as we get to the Alps, I'm sure. It's a big gap, more than 3 minutes. Do you really think that's closable? Yeah, it's a big gap, I know, but you've got to remain positive. Lots of things can happen, as everybody is saying. We're a long way from Paris. Nothing is over yet. I think it's impossible to beat him in a straight head-to-head so far, but let's just wait for the Alps, and maybe there will be tactics that we can adopt when we get there to put pressure on him. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Mikey. Sorry about treading on your toes there. A bit of a sound issue. Contador, yes, speaking there, and also listed in Equipe as being one of the reasons why it's not all over. They say he'll be exceptional in the 3rd week, and they said that Froome didn't finish off his time trial strongly. Well, talk about clutching at straws. He finished 12 seconds down. Okay, maybe he did ease off a little towards the end, but yeah, they're saying that Team Sky is also showing signs of weakness. Well, they have shown signs of weakness. That fallibility, I think, is what has spurred everybody on. But whether they'll come back to be as disciplined within the mountains as previous, we shall see. Let's not forget that Vasil Kiryenka is not there, and he was a big engine In fact, he was the man that was trying to relay back a struggling Richie Port on that day into Bigorra. Didn't quite get there. Excuse me. These are our 5 escapees. They've got 5 minutes and 8, Sean. No chance.
No, it looks like that. Yeah, it's just going to be the situation we have seen many times in this race, where they allow the break, you know, to get out. A controllable break as well. 5 riders is always controllable, and you know, you allow them to take that advantage of 9 minutes, which was the maximum today, and then they just start working. A number of teams on the front of the bunch, which we have seen here since we've come on air, and that gap, you know, just under 5 minutes, and they're going to just keep on working at it, take it down a little bit more, and then leave them hang out there. And depending on what the break do, if they really push on the end, we will see the peloton just pushing on a bit more.
We'll take a break. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Movistar looking lively today. Don't want to get caught out. And look at those speeds that we've been cruising at today. Just over 45 kilometres per hour. That's pacey. Sometimes when you look beyond the riders and you look at the cars actually look like they're going an awful lot faster, because riders cut through the air at such a speed. We did have a question earlier as to what has been the fastest ever finishing speed. What have you been gunned at, Sean? I know some of your descending has been quite frankly nuts. When you over 120 kilometres per hour on one descent.
Yes, well, on the descent you can get up to unbelievable speeds, but when you look at the speeds yesterday, I was reading one of the papers, the regional paper actually, Chris Froome, he was doing 65 kilometres an hour in one part of the time trial. It was around the 19-20 kilometre mark where it was very fast, and he was they put the chrono on him for a kilometre, and the fastest kilometre was 65 kilometres per hour, and you know, that's pretty much flat, so you can imagine, you know, the rate they were going. And when you look at the average of Tony Martin yesterday, 54.2 or something it was, so it's not surprising that they're doing 65 kilometres per hour on a little bit of downhills on the flat sections.
We got Chris Froome having a chat to us before the start today, so let's talk to the great man, shall we, as we look at another one.
3 minutes 25 advance on your adversary in the GC. You think it's enough to get the yellow in Paris?
Oh, 1 second is enough to have yellow in Paris, but yeah, if I can hold on to this time gap, obviously I'll be really happy with that. But we've got a lot of hard racing to go, so I think I'm going to need every second at this point.
Yesterday you show again that you are really strong. What about today and the next 2 days?
Next 2 days, I think the main objective for us is just to stay out of trouble and not lose any time. I think the next big day for us now is Mont Ventoux on the weekend, so we're just looking ahead to there now.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I hope he does have a nice day. One man who's not having a nice day apparently is Michael van der Galen. Gallian, sorry Michael. Yeah, he says that I've been misinforming viewers about the Boxmeer Cavendish situation, and that I'm blaming dangerous Dutch fans. No, absolutely not. Quite simply saying that I think they don't want that kind of... I think they're actually being kind, is what I was trying to say, by just diffusing the situation, by not having Cavendish, who's inflamed plenty of Dutch passions, and we love Dutch passion. But yes, I was saying it wasn't spiteful, the withdrawal. There was other reasons for it, so they weren't going to say, right, you're not coming because we don't like you. So yeah, it's how much darkness you see, Michael. Never remember that. Never forget that. And we're looking on the light side rather than the dark. So why don't you cross over? Into the dappled light of the trees here, offering a little bit of shade. It's a lovely part of the world, by the way. It does rise and fall. We'll be passing by, well, today, as we were coming down ourselves, we passed by Le Mans itself, and yeah, the countryside just gently sort of ebbs and flows. It's very calm and almost controlled today, and that level of control is being imposed by the sprinters' teams. Here's Argos Shimano. There's a happy boy, and I suspect that they're going to be a very happy team if Marcel manages to get a hat-trick of 3 victories during this tour. I know his pure hat-trick would be 3 days in a row, but I think he'll call it that. And yes, get up to the same winning level of last year, achieved by Andre Greipel, who took 3 stages, Mark Cavendish took 3 stages, and Peter Sagan took 3 stages. Sagan, incidentally, is so far ahead in the points tally. He's looking like green is his. And we were talking about Chris Froome being assured, but it's a very assured performance. There's no doubt about that by Peter Sagan.
Certainly not. I think when you look at the advantage Sagan has over the other sprinters, it looks like that it's going to be difficult to challenge him in the green jersey classification. But you only need just one problem for Sagan, a crash, and he gets caught up behind that, get no points at all, and then the other guys start to eat into his advantage. But at the moment he has that big advantage, of Greipel at 83 behind, Cavendish 103, so they're all a long ways off. But the problem is with Sagan, he's an all-rounder, and the interesting thing yesterday, he went out in the time trial, he really put in a big effort. He was hoping to get some points for the green jersey classification, but he was just outside. He finished in 17th place, where the top 15 were getting points for the green jersey classification, and that's where you have to hand it to Sagan. He's a rider that is able to get points almost everywhere, and that was very close yesterday in the time trial. But in the mountain stages, and especially the medium mountain stages, that's where he will pick up more points again. So unless he has a problem in some of these big sprints today, tomorrow, then it's hard to see where the other sprinters can pull back that advantage he's got.
Debbie Wood says, do we think that Sky have got a weak spot? Do they miss Wiggins and indeed Cavendish? Well, they were a GC team, so I think Cavendish was almost a luxury, and he's found a team that are prepared to work on his behalf. How effectively that train has been in this tour, well, it's a moot point on occasion, but certainly he is the focus. Did he miss Bradley Wiggins? Well, he's not gone yet. A lot of controversy before the tour as to whether Wiggo would come or not, and I think Dave Brailsford did the right thing in just making sure that Chris Froome was the undeniable leader. Shame, though, that Wiggins never came to defend it.
Yes, well, it's always nice to see the winner coming back to defend his title. Unfortunately for Bradley Wiggins this year, it's been a difficult year for him, and we did see in the Giro, the weather conditions certainly is not something he really performed well in, and then he had the problem with the knee, which gave him a lot of pain and a lot of problems, and it just went on from there. And I suppose when you're in that situation, coming back to defend your title, if you're not at your 100%, well, then it's always difficult to do it. And it'll be interesting to see. We haven't got a lot of recent news on Bradley Wiggins, if he's going to do some race at the end of the year. There were talk about the World Time Trial, but it will be interesting to see, will he go for the Vuelta and try use that as getting into shape, because he will need some racing to get shape for the World Time Trial Championship.
There we are. There has been some speculation as we look at our 5 men up the road. Not speculation, but conversation about the fact that when you set yourself ultimate goals and you then achieve them, Sean, as an athlete, sometimes you can be almost bereaved by the fact that you've lost your goal. You've achieved them, and how do you get that back?
Well, I think once you win one as well, it takes off the pressure off, and you can do it. It makes you hungry to go on and try and compete, and get up the best palmarès you can.
Welcome back. It's been a busy one today. It's going to get a lot busier, especially for these guys. Andre Greipel doing water carrying duties. He's going to be relying on his team, and he's not exactly buttering them up, but he's doing the gentlemanly thing. And you see this again and again, Sean. Those who've been worked for, or who are going to be requiring some help a little bit later, kind of put something in the bank, just a little bit.
Yes, well, today is the day not be expecting Greipel to be doing that, because there's enough riders in the Lotto Belisol team to go back and take bottles, but yeah, he's back there. Maybe we didn't see him stopping for a break, but surprising to see him doing that. You know, on the stages where there was going to be a mountain at the end, you could understand why he'd do that, and you know, here he's going to make the effort to get up and get to the front of the bunch. So you know, there is days where you have to do it, and as a sprinter you can do it on days when, you know, you have no chance in the end. But a little bit of, you know, surprise to see him on water duty, bottle duty today.
Should stages in the Grand Tours be shorter, says Dave number 7. Dave, they used to be longer. They used to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometres long, and in fact they used to actually start before dawn, and used to get those who weren't sponsored or indeed supported, the individuals who had to do their own running repairs, beg, steal and borrow food, sleep in churches, that were very much part of the tour as well. Everyone used to come together, including the supported riders, and ride to the sunset, sunrise I should say, and then when the sun had risen, they'd sometimes stop for their feed, and it was a proper feed stop. Other times just roll on gently. And Sean, the distances, the sheer distances that they covered in the early days of the Tour de France far exceeded what they're expected to do now. Yeah,
by a long shot, and you know, they were just out you know, from morning to late evening, and the big tours, they have been looking at that in the last years to, you know, to cut back. And I suppose when you look at the Tour of France, it's you know, the middle of the season, July. The riders are not too tired at this moment, haven't raced too much, and you know, when you look at some of the riders, they had 20, I think it's about 25 races. Quintana had about 25 races before he came to the start of the Tour of France, which is a tiny amount, and a lot of the riders, you know, have a small amount of races done this year. But when you go later on the season, you know, the Vuelta, well, then riders are starting to get tired. It's getting to the end of season, and that's where you need shorter stages, and they have done that. You know, they've cut the stages as much as possible to make the race more aggressive. But I think the Tour of France here, you know, the stages, they need to be the lengths they are, because if you go back 15-20 years ago, there was much longer stages. The stages we're having now, like today, 218 kilometres after the time trial yesterday, I think it's the distance we need.
There we are. Well, if you want drama, wait till the end today. Very much doubt that these guys are going to be a feature, and in fact, in terms of rises and falls, featureless today. No KOMs, no categorised climbs at all. There is an intermediate sprint, however, and it might well be that you see Sagan popping up and contesting that. Whether Andre Greipel will lay it on the line again, as he paid a price for it the other day, Sean, by coming up and just putting a bit too much into it, and then got beaten by Kittel into San Malo, and looked like he was well beaten by Kittel then.
Well, I think the sprint between the two Germans, Greipel and Kittel, in the final 100 metres, Kittel was by far the most strongest, and he had, you know, that extra kick, and he came by Greipel very quickly. And it did look like that Greipel, he had, you know, knocked off his effort a bit because of Kittel coming by him so quickly. I thought Greipel had just cut his effort for a bit, and you know, the finish was a bit special there. There was it was going around to the left on the finish line, which looked a bit dangerous when you're coming down that finishing straight at 60+ kilometers per hour. But I think it was just that Kittel was, you know, so powerful in that final 100 metres. He was, you know, really good, and he was the fastest by strong. I don't think the intermediate sprint, what Greipel put in there in that, I doubt if that took, you know, that much out of him.
Well, we'll see how they go today. I think you're absolutely right. I also think that Marcel Kittel really should have been revealed to us last year when he got himself a stomach bug, and that was the end of him. A lot of publicity and showboating surrounding him as he arrived, but well, he just didn't have the stage to do it on, because he wasn't on stage, he was in the loo, unfortunately. So yes, Marcel Kittel having a rough time last year. This year, this couldn't be better. And well, it could be. It could get better today, actually, and tomorrow into Saint-Amand. We have a whole raft of sprint days before we really get to the business end, and the rude awakening is going to come with Mont Ventoux on stage 15. That's Sunday, the day before the rest day. Gap, well, it by any other stretch of the imagination would be a strenuous day in itself. And then you've got that climbing time trial, not an entire climb, of course, but a couple of humps along the way into Chorges, and then it is the double d'Huez, on stage 18, twice over Alpe d'Huez. Amazing. The Grand Pont Nord, and then Annonay, and of course then the Champs-Élysées. So it'll be a long hiatus for the sprinters. Time running out if you want to start racking up victories. Today is going to be one of those for the quick men, and as a result it is a flat parkour for this day, and we have 5 men up the road, and it's 4 minutes just over now. The gap had been much more than that. They've halved the gap since we've been on air, with 66.5 kilometers to go through Pellerine. And just passed by, incidentally, the chateau of Prince Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. That's the youngest brother of the emperor. You saw his gaff just a few moments ago, the Chateau de Boisimont. We'll continue this roll through this flattish countryside today. It is a transition stage, but plenty of talking time to take some of your questions. And indeed, a wait for that grand finale and that nasty double right-hander that we keep talking about. They say you can take it at speed and you get 3 men side by side around the corner. So will it be the 3 trains all in line? We'll see. We'll take a break. We'll be back live on Eurosport in just a moment. Welcome back. 64.1 kilometers to go, and we are far exceeding even the fastest pace that the organisers put as an assumption of our timetable today. It only goes up to 44 kilometers an hour, and we've been averaging 45.5. It'll get a lot faster than that towards the end as well. So yeah, we're going to be early today. So not much time left, and not much gap as well. It's falling down. 3 minutes and 41, as you can see, as we continue to go through the dappled woodland. These trees, as we mentioned earlier, planted by Napoleon. The big plane trees, by the way, we're talking. The sort of more dangerous ones. The ones that France Television's car tried to avoid and got into Fletcher and Hoogerland, catapulting them into the barbed wire. Well, we've got Fletcher yet again in the escape today. There he is in the navy blue with the sunburst gold. Johnny has been busy in this tour. I've seen him on occasion as well, trying to be part of a break. It seems that Fletcher's always up there. It's been maybe it's contract time. He's 35 years of age now, so he's not going to have many more contracts remaining. Looks like a rather fetching moustache on Jérôme Cousin. There's been a few fake ones knocking around where they've sort of drawn them on, but believe me, that one looks suitably furry. Cousin with the Combativity Award from yesterday in the run to San Marno. He with Oros Mate and Vestra, as well as Simon, were in the break. As Tommy Vauclair, going to be seeing an awful lot more of that face, and it won't look like that when we get to the mountains. It'll be all over the place. Not injurious, I'm talking. It'll be his usual animated self. We look forward to it. Mont Ventoux beckons. Still not sure, actually, where our commentary position is going to be on that day. It is a very focused place, and we're hoping that we get up towards the antenna. There you go. We'll let you know when we've decided. Golden shoulders of Lotto Belisson towards the front, working as they are to make sure that Andre Greipel's in a good place. If you just look beyond the Sky representation up front, you'll see Argos Shimano. They're working for Marcel, Kittel, and of course Omega Pharma in the blue, black and white, working for Mark Cavendish. Sean, it is a day for working. It is going to be the trains. Let's take a moment to get on the gravy train, shall we? Hunger. Your book has just come out. It's been an enormously successful career. It's amazing when you pick out the victories of riders and you kind of go back and you look through their palmares. But there's only one King Kelly. There's a reason why they call you that. But I've got to say, I can't walk sort of 10 meters here without somebody wanting a photograph or getting a handshake. Not from me, but from Sean Kelly, obviously. and it's a joy. Tell us about this book, Sean. Just hit the shelves, I understand, and flying out.
Yes, it's just out in the last 3 or 4 days. It's something that I have been approached for a long number of years to do, and it took them a long time to persuade me to go and do it, because it does take a lot of work, and it did take 2 years of a lot of work, not a full 2 years of course, but to go back through my career, and I went back right from the beginning when I started, and then through my young days. So there's many years, and it goes back many years, I can tell you that. So to remember some of the events, you have to do a lot of research, and then it starts coming back to mind. So that's all in there, and there's some great stories about about bike riding, what you get up to, and the characters you're in teams with, and the characters you come up against. And then it went on, when I finished off my career, we went on from that, and I'm happy that it worked out well. But as I said, if you want a book to be interesting, you have to put the work in, and yeah, now it's out there, and as you said, I suppose I'm a little bit on the gravy train at the moment.
Oh well, we're happy to oblige. It's great to have Sean Kelly, of course, as part of the Eurosport team year after year. Let's just tell you and remind you that you can win a copy of the book, which is called Hunger. And it is, if you go on Twitter to Eurosport UK TV, so at Eurosport UK TV, if you follow them, then you'll be issued with a question. And the first 10 respondents who not only complete the answer, but also hashtag it, so tag the answer Eurosport Cycling, so hashtag Eurosport Cycling, will receive a copy of Sean's book. Did you find, Sean, as well, that as you remembered things, you actually remembered more things? They sort of knock on like dominoes, don't they?
Yes, they certainly do. When you start researching, you start reading about events, and it's just it's some things you've totally forgot about, and then you read about something that in a race what happened, and it just goes on from there, and then you get into the flow, and it all comes back to you, and it's amazing, the great stories, and the great days I had, and in the teams, and that I think they were the best days in cycling, because at that time it was much more enjoyable. In the evening time, for example, you sat around with your team and you talked about the event and the past day and the past number of days, and they were great banter. Now things have changed. People are on they're on their mobile phones, they're texting all the time, and I've seen riders here at breakfast that they're sitting, nobody is talking to each other, and I've seen that in the last 10 years, where I remember my day, you come down in the morning time, chat wouldn't be as great in the morning, but certainly in the evening time, it was a part of the day you're looking forward to when the event was over, to relax and chill out. And it's amazing when you start talking, and when you come to the Tour de France, you meet riders of the past, and they start talking about events, the Paris-Nices or the classics, and when you get into the flow, it's amazing, the great memories that you can just remember again.
Well, if you'd like to dip into Sean's mind, it's cavernous, then the book is Hunger. And you can win it or a copy of it. We've got 10 up for grabs today at Eurosport UK TV, at Eurosport UK TV on Twitter. If you go there and follow them, and then hashtag it Eurosport Cycling, your answer, you'll get instructions there. Then you've got a chance to win a copy of the book. Sean's kindly given me one, and I will be reading through it over the next couple of days, and I'm sure the odd anecdote that I pick out along the way we'll be sharing with you. But yeah, a terrific read by all accounts, and already flying off the shelves. It was tough to get 10. We had to wrestle. Today they're going to be wrestling with the final corners, and we hope and pray indeed that everyone gets round nice and safely. It's going to be something of an issue, perhaps, and we're going to be there quicker than you think. At these speeds, about an hour and 15 minutes. And at the very least, that's if they knock it off a bit, the speeds will get absolutely frightening at the very end. So I hope you'll stay with us for the ride. There's the landscape. Not a bump inside. Oh, you know what? Coffee's just arrived. We're going to have a break. And we'll be back live here on the Tour de France in a few moments. Welcome back. 57 kilometres to go, and the gap absolutely tumbling. And why is that? Well, we're approaching an intermediate sprint, so the sprint trains have started to think about the business end of today, perhaps the business of as well of collecting some points. Sagan, naturally, you'll see his Cannondale boys start to come up, but he can do it on his own on occasion. It comes at the 52 kilometre marker, so for the men in the break, that will be in what, 4.6 kilometres, a little bit longer for these guys. They're still fighting for the points, Sean, and Mark Cavendish says he hasn't given up hopes of green, and anything can happen. A little bit of bad luck can count for an awful lot against a rider, especially when you're amassing points. And the sprint days, there's so many points up for grabs, both today into Lyon and of course the Champs-Élysées.
Yes, well, there's many days for the sprinters to come, and there is possibilities there for Mark Cavendish to pull back a lot, but you know, it depends on what Peter Sagan, what way he fell in the big bunch sprints, and we have one of them here today to Tour. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be a hectic one once again, but I feel Sagan, he has, you know, pulled out a major advantage over his big rivals, and if he can keep it right in the sprints and not get into difficulty, I don't see them doing it. I think he's going to, you know, take this jersey all the way to Paris. But again, you only need to get it wrong, and just 1 sprint second, for example, today in the final, you find yourself getting boxed out, or you get caught behind a crash, then, you know, the thing changes totally. And that is bike racing. It just can change so quickly. But certainly when you look at the classification, it's Sagan is in the driving seat at the moment.
Well, it seems that everyone knows that the pace is going to be up, and the safest place to be is out front. And just having a look at somebody relaying back on. 55.5 to go. If you look to the left of your screen, so on the right-hand side of the road, you'll see Sky. Behind Sky, you'll see Saxo Tinkoff in their gold and blue. And behind them, hiding, is Peter Sagan. So he's sort of coming up on the outside. They're more than aware of it. And you see the Golden Shoulders boys of Lotto Belisol just double-checking. Rather nice splitty there. That's a campervan with a split window. Made it up until 1967. From 1950 to 1967. I've got a 1968, so I missed out on the old splits. These guys up the road, we might have split today. Ooh, did you see what I did then? The wind, however, has ebbed. It was gusting, blowing steadily around about 45 kilometres per hour as they go past the 5K to the intermediate sprint banner. It's eased. It's around about 25 kilometres per hour. It will become a headwind later on. It's not had that much of an impact so far, Sean, and we've had some decent speeds, but just nothing too serious as we go through Rillet.
No, I don't think we've had the opportunity, first of all. We've seen a lot of the terrain we've been through, very densely wooded, and a lot of protection for the riders. But here, you know, there is a section now where it opens up, and still, you know, with just under 55 kilometres to go, this is the getting into the danger zone, because everybody wants to be in the front, and the pace just pushes on. I think the interesting thing is what we're hearing is the last 20, maybe 25 Ks, they turn around a bit, and it's becoming more of a headwind, and that will really calm things down. You know, if we could continue in the same direction as we're going now, we did see with our 5 leaders out in front there, the camping car, the wind was coming across from the left into the left shoulder, and if you had that in the very end when they're really going at full speed for the final kilometres, it would cause a lot of problems in the peloton. But looking at the forecast and you know, talking to people that have been out there on the course, what we've seen ourselves on the way in here, it looks like that it will calm things down in the final kilometre with more or less of a headwind.
15 riders will get sprint points, so the majority will be taken by these guys. Juan Antonio Flecha just comes out of the saddle momentarily to get himself back on to a good rolling break here. And as you can see, well, the wind perhaps has gusted back up. Those flags look set solid against the mast. And Sagan has got a couple of teammates. He's towards the front, dead centre, in the almost all-white livery. You'll find Argos Shimano. Mark Cavendish is also hiding there. not hiding, you understand, but at the moment they're a little mixed in amongst each other. His team, Omega Pharma Quickstep, there with the white, black shorts, white, blue and black jerseys, familiar to most of you, I am sure. 53.5 to go, and well, they're all kind of looking at each other and pace gently, slowly but surely, easing up. If you can ease up, I think you can. 2 minutes and 46 to those breakers up the road. Somebody asking how many bidons does a team get through in an average tour. I did actually have an average because of a purchase docket that we saw once. I've completely forgotten the number. Try and find out for you. A lot are jettisoned, as you know, as soon as they're emptied. These days, they're biodegradable. So if somebody doesn't pick them up, they do dissolve, ultimately. Sprint in 1,000 metres. 1K to go then for these guys until that intermediate sprint. Not sure of these riders who's going to be best minded to have a go. But, well, let's see if they do. Fletcher is in 10th place, by the way, so he's on 80 points in the sprint category. Peter Sagan is on 269. That might be cold, you know, out there. They look a long way offshore. Be safe, fellas. Oh, they're coming back, which is good news. So, yes, Fletcher has an interest in this. He's the highest placed of the escapees in 10th place, not bad in the points categorisation. Will they let him have it?
Well, it's difficult to know here. I don't think they will allow anybody to have it here because, yeah, they can see now that the advantage, you know, is coming down rapidly. 240 at the moment with a long way to the finish. So it's going to be the situation we have seen in the past where you have a number of riders as Fletcher go for it here to take it up, but I think it's too far out.
Fletcher goes too far out. Gavazzi, incidentally, is also up for this. He's in 16th place, and that's why it's really those two who have most to gain and most to lose, I guess. Fletcher's gone long, but I think Gavazzi may well take him. It goes over to the barriers of Fletcher, beds in behind him. Too much energy expended, I think, by Juan Antonio to make a difference at the line, and Gavazzi rolls over. So was 16th at that point as the schoolgirls go completely nuts. It's not the Champs-Élysées, but you'd thought it was. He was on 46 points and he grabbed 20, putting him on 66 points, and that closes him towards the top 10 in the points categorisation, and that means a lot, Sean.
Well, if he can continue on working on it and, you know, he gets into more breakaways, top 10, I don't think, you know, he'll be overexcited about that. A top 5 would be nice in the green jersey classification. Then you get some nice prize money as well. I think that sprint was just for the prize money there that they were really going for.
There we are. So, time for those just behind. I think we rather unkindly got a flash a moment ago. Yes,
we've seen a lot of that today.
We have. It's been unlucky. We do our level best to avoid comfort breaks, but occasionally something pops in. 51.3 kilometres to go. 2 minutes and 36. All pops out. Good was this. 1 kilometre to go for these boys. Sean, who's going to be most animated? I've got a feeling it's going to be Sagan again.
Well, Sagan is going to be there, and you know, he needs to just keep an eye here on the front of the other men who are close to him in place-wise, I suppose, who are second and third in that classification. They are a long ways down in the points. You know, they're chasing Sagan, but he will just, you know, try and pick up the maximum. And again, we've seen him in the past number of days against the bigger sprinters, Greipel and Cavendish. He just, you know, stays up there, finish in the top 2 or 3 and pick up, you know, a nice number of points of what's left as they come through.
We'll see how they go. I think Fletcher's up to 97 now, which puts him a little bit of distance between himself and Edvald Bosenhagen in that competition, into 7th place. Just behind Kwiatkowski, who's been going well on 101. Here they go, and it's lit up. And how much does it mean to them? Well, a lot. There's Sagan tracking in 3rd place in the green jersey. Mark Cavendish is just behind him at the moment. Just drifting over to the other side of the road is Andre Greipel. And they're having a proper run towards this. I think Mark Cavendish may well roll through first, does he? Only just. They both eased off. And Sagan livid at being hampered along the way by Van Poppel. Let's have a look at this and see what his question was. Van Poppel bouncing away ahead of him just there. And in fact, I think it was Bokermans. Bokermans just taking him over to the barrier. We'll get a check on that. Or was I right first up? No, it was Bokermans. There we are, and they hit the line. Greipel again just eased off and thought, I don't want any more of that. Yeah, Bokermans there, balking Sagan. There we are. And Sagan issuing an oath. Not happy.
No, not happy. And yeah, Bokermans, he did move a little bit, but again, Sagan, I think just making the sprint and trying to conserve as much energy, but still wanting to make the sprint there, and you know, in the wrong wheel, and not happy with Bokermans. And I suppose, yeah, he has a reason, because Bokermans, you know, why is he making the sprints here? Sagan probably feels, well, you know, he has nothing really to gain, and you know, why is he up there contesting for the sprints and, you know, taking some points from Sagan? He doesn't look happy camper at all.
He doesn't. Listen, nobody's got a right. Maybe bragging rights, who knows. But Chris Bokermans on 28 points before that sprint. Sagan on 269. Maybe Bokermans' campaign has just started right here. I don't know. He's upset a great man. 49.2 kilometres to go. 2 minutes and 46 is the gap. They are surely doomed. The wind looks like it's going to play a part. There was some ladies there in rather old-fashioned looking garb. I'm sure that I'll tell you what, when we take a break, which we're about to, I'll have a look and see if it's mentioned in our speaker's guide. You never know. 2 minutes 27, holding steady. Thanks incidentally for everybody who has sent in info. And Yotam Tavor says, I think Orica published that they use 1,300 bottles during the first week. That's a lot of bottles, Sean.
It sounds a lot, and I was just trying to make a quick calculation there. You know, on the very warm days, I suppose the riders could go through 20 bottles, and you know, if you just calculate that, a 9-man team, that's, you know, 180, and then in the cars as well, as you go to the feed zone, there'd be a lot more of, you know, spare bottles to give out, and you know, you could probably talk about 250 a day, I suppose, and then you make the calculation. So it does add up very quickly. And I know from our team, where we make just smaller races, just short days, and the amount of bottles you need for the year, it does grow to a huge number at the end of the year.
There you are. So one of the key sponsorships, bottles. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with the break in a moment. Welcome back. Just looking at Pierre Rolland. All chances of GC glory dissipated or disappeared in the time trial. I think dissipated. They did ever way as he got ever slower, it seems, around the town trial course yesterday. But he does lead the polka dot jersey King of the Mountains competition, and the mountains is where he functions. He can't time trial, but he can climb. And so, yes, it's going to be when the road kicks up, and it will do with Mont Ventoux on Sunday, let's not forget. We're thinking sprinting for the days in between, possibly in Lyon as well on stage 14, but today and tomorrow. Today to Tours and tomorrow to Saint-Amand from Tours, so no big switch around overnight. Got to tell you as well, thank you, Simon McMichael. He's gone bidon-tastic. He says that last year, Team Sky said that they got through 3,000 bidons. If you times that by 22 teams, that's 66,000 bottles for the Tour. That's a lot of bottles. We have more about the Tour.
Well, it's particularly about sprinting, since it's looked like it's going to end up in a sprint, Carlton. We have, first of all, Christian Giberto, sports director of Argus Shimano, here, saying it's a very tense moment, the sprint. Very spectacular when we see the big group arrive. But at 21 years of age, you've got no fear, you know, and you go into it thinking nothing could go wrong. A lot of the decision-making actually is automatic. There's a lot of talking in the last 5 kilometres. They're all like commanders, the sprint leaders. Just a word here, go, stop, go to the right, go to the left. All that's going on as they get towards the finish. Preparing for a sprint as a team. It's one of the most organised and precise manoeuvres there is in sport, you know. First, the train gets together, it starts to accelerate. One by one, the teammates at the front fade away. The next one goes faster, always faster, faster, until only one remains, the sprint of the team. And he then, of course, is trying to make something concrete out of all the amazing teamwork that has gone before. It's very, very complex indeed, and they go through this practicing. Here you can see the August Shimano team practicing the lead-out train before a big race. This goes on with all the major teams who've got major sprinters as part of their setup. But here himself is Marcel Kittel.
We have our team spirit, that we are really close together as a group. We have one goal. I think that's our key to success.
Very single-minded, aren't they? Well, a key that's already allowed August Shimano's Marcel Kittel to win 2 stages for himself this year so far. Are there to be any more?
Thanks, Mike. An inevitable sprint today, you might think. Romain Sicard of Euskaltel, the only Frenchman within that Spanish or largely Basque team, has decided that he's had enough. 2 minutes and 28, the gap now. It was up towards around about the 9-minute mark earlier on in this stage. It's a long one today. Let's not, certainly remind you. It's from Fougères to Tours, 218 kilometres in total. And it looks like the first of our escapees is about to be caught. We've been through the sprint. 5 men contested it, and from the break, Gavazzi taking it ahead of Fletcher. We're in the break. And when it came to the chasers, Peter Sagan was hampered to his own mind by Chris Bocamans from Vacansoleil, and Mark Cavendish was the best of the rest. Time then to speak to, I think, Mr. Kittel. We call him Mr. Kittel these days, despite his youthful nature. He's 1-2. Will it be 3?
You have won 2 stages. He's been asked, therefore you must be quite relaxed. Yeah, I'm fine now, yeah, but I'm always looking for another one, you know. It's a nice day for being on the bike today, and we'll see how it goes. A difficult finish with 2 sharp corners in the last kilometre. Well, we hope to be in the right position for those 2 corners. We've got to be ahead to get round those 2 corners without any problems.
Thanks, Mike. 4 men then remain at the front of today's race, and the beautiful countryside as we head towards Tours, a place where they say the most perfect French is spoken. Wish you could say the word French. The Chateau d'Ussé, I'm looking at right now, that looks rather picture postcardy. Actually looks quite Germanic, I must say. There you go. The run today is going to be a quick one. In fact, the pace has been extraordinarily high. It's beyond all of our assumed timetable. And so, with the sprint beckoning, and indeed the escape failing before our very eyes, it's time to have a chat with the quick men. We've got Andre Greipel next, who most certainly will feature.
Yeah, well, we're saving ourselves for this big sprint, aren't we? And setting it all up with Andre Greipel next after Kittel. Yeah, the time trial for the sprinters was a kind of a rest day, really, so long as we finished well inside the time limit, which we all knew that we would. The finish today, Andre, it's a little bit dangerous. We put this point to one of your rivals, Kittel. He said, yeah, they're going to be at the front. You'll be at the front too? Yeah, well, the finishes are always quite dangerous, but this one, we do know that it's a little bit tight, and the way we set up our train is very, very important, to try to get our train in a good line before those first 2 corners. You have rivals in Kittel and Cav. Oh, yeah, I know, we know that, and we'll do all we can to get the better of them.
Thank you, Mike. 4 riders left in the break today. It had been as high as around 9 minutes. But as we pass through the forest of Chinon, the wine from this part of the world, incidentally, is red, but you drink it chilled. Rather flowery. So, how does that transpond to today? Well, it'll be sweet for somebody. But I have to say that at the end, it will be absolutely white hot for the sprinters. Yes, with 41.3 kilometres remaining, arrow straight roads, it was always going to be a doomed escape. And now with the protection from the wind especially, they are en masse and just rolling ever so gently, but quickly, towards Tours. We're going through the fast men, talking about their thoughts. And Mark Cavendish is coming up right now. Bound to be a feature, and personally, after the other day, hope he wins.
Together with Mark Cavendish today. Mark, after the time trial, it's a day for sprinters, and of course we're talking about sprinting. Is it all about Mark Cavendish?
I don't know, as you see, Marcel's won 2, he's going really strong, so I don't know. Tours is a famous finish for sprint. Obviously Paris Tours finishes there, so I've never won there, so I'd like to win here. And today, it's obviously going to be a bunch sprint, or we hope it is, and I think there's going to be a lot of teams working for that.
Who is the man you're looking the most for? Is there either Greipel or Kittel?
I think, to be fair, Kittel's the next big thing. I think he's the guy that's coming from a long way back and winning a lot. Andre's strong, but there's some strong teams here. August Shimano, Lotte Bellis, they're really going strong, and so is Mega Farm Quickstep, desperately wanting to set up for sprints. And I think it's always a battle of the sprint trains. I think it's the first time a lot of sprint trains have been fighting for sprints in the recent years of the Tour de France. So it's good for the spectators at least.
We'll see once again your team controlling the race today, because we know there's going to be many teams willing to win on a breakaway today.
Yeah, we'll be riding first off with Jerome Pinot. He's been riding really strong here. All the Giro he's riding, all the Tour he's been riding for the things, and he'll be doing the same today along with the other sprint teams, I think.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark Cavendish looks extraordinarily relaxed, especially after what he's been through. I think the sympathy of just about everybody perhaps has just elevated him a bit. He's looking calm, and when he's calm, he's lethal.
Yes, well, he's looking good and sounds upbeat, and that's the way you've got to be. And we did hear from all the sprinters there, the sprint train is going to be so important, and it's going to be really important today, because that final, the last corner is at 450 meters, and then you go right and right, but the final number of kilometers before that, the first right-hander, is going to be a headwind, and they're going to be trying to hold off a little bit, and with the headwind it'd be a little bit more, so we could see something a little bit more difficult than the normal, but the sprint train is going to be so important. If you have 2 riders can take you into that final corner with 450 meters, well, then you're in the armchair.
Looking forward to it. Let's get another one of these breaks out of the way with, shall we, before we hit the run for home and the line. Welcome back. 37.4 kilometers to go, a little bit less than that now, and the gap to the break collapsing to 1 minute and 40. And Jerome Pinot has decided that he's just going to stretch the pace a little bit. He's been given free rein, clearly, to go and have a go by Omega Pharma Quickstep. Well, a little bit of a mystery as to why he would want to do that, frankly. You never know, he might well be meeting up with family along the way and have asked for permission, but the way he's checking over his shoulder suggests that that's a real effort. These guys have had much of the day to themselves, and it's over for them. Simple as that. Yet again, Juan Antonio Flecha has been involved, just can't help himself, it seems. Today, it'll be the sprinters helping themselves to the end of the day. Pinot still double checking over his shoulder. So that was just to inject a little bit of pace, and he's drawn them over, and quite right. So the pace is up. Let's just remind you something about today. There is a wind. We haven't seen much of it because of the woodland. However, with 27 kilometers to go, we turn into a headwind, and that will have an impact. We just have one last commercial break to take, and we'll try and slot it in as quickly as we can in order to keep it clear the decks for what will be a dramatic ending to today. Quick question for Sean Kelly. What was the toughest stage of your career? The toughest, not necessarily your biggest victory, but your toughest.
Well, there's many tough ones, and the mountain stages are the ones which you really suffer. If you're not a really good climber, then you suffer a bit more, and I certainly wasn't the greatest of climbers. I could get through. I was able to struggle through the mountains pretty well. But when you look back through your career, and there's days in the Pyrenees where you really suffer, the mountaintop finishes, or the difficult mountain stages, and then there's the days in the Alps where you really suffer, like Alpe d'Huez, for example. So I have bad memories of both. Some years you get through the Alps very well, and then you go to the Pyrenees and you suffer for some reason, or the year changes about. So you have memories of all the climbs. Especially if you do, a 12 or 14 Tour de France's, you have difficult times in both big mountain ranges.
Was there one day in particular that just stood out as a bruiser?
Well, I think when I became race leader into Pau, and then the next day was a big mountain stage. Got into difficulty very early on the first climb and started to struggle, and never got back into the leading group after that. And of course, when you have the yellow jersey on your shoulders, all the press, the TV cameras, they stay with you for a long time. Some stay with you all day, and that is very difficult, and that is very marking. And we see nowadays as well, when some of the riders start to lose contact, they're not happy when the motorbikes are around them there all the time for too long. And that is just one of my days, one of my really difficult days in the Tour, when I took the jersey, held on for just one day, and lost it very quickly in the following stage.
So with the glory comes heartbreak. So let's go from heartbreak and just ask you the quick question then. As such an illustrious career, was there one highlight that stood out above all others?
Well, I think I was a lucky one. I had a lot of highlights, and it's something that a lot of riders they don't have the success, and I had a great career, and often when I'm asked the question, would I like to change, would I change things if I could go back again, would I like to go back again? Certainly you would change things, because in hindsight is a great thing, and when you look back, I would concentrate more on a Tour of France, which I really didn't do as the Royals have been doing now in the last 15 years. But if I had less racing in the beginning of the year, less of the classic races, because I surely arrived at the Tour of France in my best years, a little bit fatigue, and then you pay the price in the Tour.
Don't forget, at the end of today you'll have your own finale to the day, whether that be studio based or indeed at the line, and enjoy that as you will. So Sean, come on, I've got to nail you down. What was the big day? Was it second time Milan San Remo? Was it one of the Pyrenees? Was it a day in a glory day in green? There must have been one little beacon. Oh, he's grimacing. Too many. You're a lucky man.
Yes, I suppose that is lucky is the word. And when I became professional, my second year pro, I went to the Tour of France, actually won a stage, and that is, I won is clear in my mind. I can remember getting into a breakaway with, Knetterman, Joseph Weir, Nielsen, the Swedish rider. So I can remember all the names. Bitangi, the French rider. And that was the earlier part of my career. Then as it went on, I won a lot of stages in the Tour, won the green jersey, won the classics, and there's a lot of the wins in there that I cannot remember as clearly. So that tells you, your first victories are always the sweeter ones. And then at the end of my career, I won Milan San Remo. I suppose when I was written off by a lot of the press, I was too old, and won Milan San Remo in a spectacular way, getting back to Argentina on the descent of the Poggio, and that's the one I remember quite clearly as well. So in the beginning I remember the Tour de France, and then in the end, and there's many others of course, and I think I was one of the lucky ones to have the chance, I suppose, to win so many of the big events.
The man is of course Sean Kelly. The book is called Hunger, and it's out now, and if you're lucky enough to have been following at Eurosport UK TV on Twitter, you'll have a chance to win one of 10 that's up for grabs. Out of all of them, Sean, The one that I remember most vividly is that second win in Milan-San Remo, and the sheer joy. I don't think I ever saw you roar quite so loudly and roundly across the line. Fantastic, albeit with a dodgy looking helmet, but anyway, that's just my opinion. 32.3 kilometers to go. We're teeing ourselves up for an enormous sprint. Sprinters teams to the fore. Stay with us. We'll be back after this, our last commercial break. Welcome back. Just over 30 kilometers to go. Only 1 minute and 6 now to 4 remaining breakers up the road. All of a sudden, before the last break, we saw Jerome Pinot just inject a little bit of pace. He was trying to drag some life into the chasers because the speed did not suit the sprinters. Sean, if anyone thought that sprinters like to amble along slowly in an approach, even with 30 kilometers to go, another thing coming, they like a nice rolling speed, and it was clearly too slow for some of the quick men.
Yes, interesting there, because when you consider what's happening out in front with the breakaway, everything was under control, but they seem to want to up the pace for a reason. I was wondering whether there's something happening down the rear, but nothing came up of that later on. But he did, up the pace a bit. Sometimes they can come, they're a little bit further off in the group, and they come with a big burst of speed, so they just take 2 or 3 bikes off the front. So maybe that was the reason that Pinot just pushed on a bit faster, going at a faster pace. But now, they're back into this controlled situation again, the sprinters teams. We can see Velez here from Ega Pharma on the front, and the advantage just 1 minute, and still with 29 kilometers to go. There is a lot of time to play with here, a lot of kilometers before they really will start pushing on. Wind situation, it is blowing quite strong out there, and we have seen that with the flags, but they have been really lucky that they have been in a lot of sheltery roads today, and in the final then it's going to open up a bit, but it looks like that it's not going to be as much on the side. It's going to turn more into a headwind, and that will calm things down. But again, we can see here they're going along at a real fast rate, because when you see the bunch stretched out, that is the real answer. I think the pace is getting higher as we get closer to the finish.
It certainly is. I understand that Niemiec, the Pole, has got a mechanical issue as we speak. Everyone's going to face them. It's how quickly you deal with them and how important you are if you get assistance. We saw earlier in this tour into Bigorra that Sky looked fallible. After all the efforts they put into Axe Trois Domaines, that's given some heart to the GC contenders. And as we turn towards this headwind, it is the GC teams that just behind the sprinters here, those in the general classification, who are thinking about the yellow jersey. It's nice to see the yellow jersey so prominent, but you also see Saxo Tinkoff and Alberto Contador, who's certainly not writing himself off, and the press hoping that he ignites. They're also speculating that Chris Froome might well just be beyond his best, but I haven't seen a chink in the armour yet. And yesterday, his time trialling ability, unbelievable, just quite remarkable. It's an amazing standard that he set himself, and indeed achieved that. Mental fortitude, well, he displayed that in Bigorra, and the team, well, if they can continue to do occasionally what they did in Axe Trois Domaines, then I think he's set for yellow. But there's a long way to go and some real hurdles along the way. Today, it's about wind and the sprint finish. But, Sean, we've got some mighty mountains to come. And Mont Ventoux, just before the rest day, is the start of them.
Yes, well, Ventoux is the next big rendezvous for the general classification men. But, when I say that, today we can see there that the general classification men have to be, careful, stay to the front. It's not as that they can sit back 3/4 ways in the bunch and take an easy day. As you go on into this stage, the final 30 kilometres, they have to stay very close. So they are energy sapping days, but Ventoux is the big day, and it will be interesting to see who will be the best on that one. Froome, I think, is the one who will ride well on Ventoux, because that style of finish, difficult to see anybody challenging him.
Somebody asked earlier on, when was the last person to win a tour without winning a stage? Cast your mind back to Le Mans in 1987 for that one. That might surprise some of you, but yeah, it's been a long time. Chris Froumont's already won a stage, and I suspect he may well win another one. He is that strong. Wouldn't be surprised if he won one too. We shall see. And indeed, there are other opportunities for him as well in the High Alps before we hook back to the Champs-Élysées and what is regarded widely as the Sprinters World Championship. Everyone wants to win that one in particular, and indeed I think they might well trade some stage wins along the way. So roll the dice time, I think, a final time, as Delaplace decides to just inject a little bit more pace, but with 46 seconds and just go back out again, courtesy of that last little push. I think it's just showboating at the moment, Sean. These guys, they've had their fun, but it's over.
Yes, well, they know it's definitely over now, and it has been coming for a long time. It's a situation, you know, the last man in the break was to hold on out in front. He gets, you know, the most aggressive rider of the day. The prize money as well is quite good for that, and you know, you get that number just to carry it for the following day, and you know, they're just having a little bit of a ding dong here for that at the moment.
There you are. It's a white number on a red background, incidentally, and it's the designation of the Combativity Award. And I think it's Gavazzi is wearing it. I beg your pardon. It was Cousin wearing it from the San Malo event. Of course, no Combativity Award in the time trial. You might think that's unfair, but I guess the winner is the most combative, so what would be the point? 50 odd seconds, still less than a minute, and this little skirmishing just to try and get themselves to the forefront of the judges' minds. Combativity Award will go to one of them, and they're still stretching their legs. Fletcher has been up here and hasn't had the award yet, and I think, honestly, by default, he should probably get it because he's been so busy, but clearly, as you can see, Delaplace is going for it, and as a Frenchman, he's probably quite high up in the forethoughts of the commissaires, or the jury that decide on this.
Yes, well, I think it's going to be a one where the last man out, if he can get away, ride a number of kilometres further on his own, well, then you have a big chance of getting it, and that's what's happening here at the moment. You know, they know that with 25 kilometres to go, well under the minute, it's all about, you know, just getting out here, and if you can get out on your own, well, then you will just win that classification, and that prize for the day.
24.8 to go, 52 seconds is the gap. They're rolling on. They're going to make a turn fairly shortly, and in fact the breakers have already done that, and it's a headwind, so the speeds will drop down after a day where they've been rolling along quite nicely at pace and well sheltered from the wind. Everyone calling for bottles late on as the last bottle take possibilities come to be. They want the water now so they can ride in well quenched for the battle ahead. Four riders left. They are bidding at the moment for Combativity Award because that's all they've got left, I'm afraid. Gavazzi, Mori, Fletcher, Delaplace, the last remaining riders from the escape. Zicard already gave up the ghost on the big highway. Chasing them, and only 47 seconds adrift, is an enormous group. The peloton more or less together, strung out as a tail. The pace is high, but it's the sprinters teams that are bidding for it. Jaja revient. And one. Yes, the pace is high, and it's been cranked up by the sprinters teams, and in particular Orica Greenedge, who decided that the pace was just not to their liking. Well, they've changed the mood, and it will be dispatched, these last 23 odd kilometres, rather quickly. And there we are, Omega Pharma Quickstep in the pale blue, black and white, the team of Mark Cavendish. Behind them, Argos Shimano, or mixed in with them, Argos Shimano in the almost all white, working as they will for Marcel Kittel, who is looking for his third stage victory of this Tour de France. And as Mark Cavendish says, he is the man at the moment. No disrespect to Andre Greipel, whose team with the golden shoulders, Lotto Belisol, also up towards the front. As Andy Schleck, check over his shoulder as if he heard us. Last bottle for Andy, please. That's what he's looking for. It's been a long day, Sean. Despite the fact it's not had the most testing terrain, it does sap you.
Yes, it does sap you, and you know, the pace we did see at the start, it was really fast. It's probably knocked off a bit, so the average speed for the day will drop a bit, but you know, very, very fast racing in the first hour. The second hour, it was still up there at 45.2, so that is surely sapping. And as you go on in the long race, the Tour of France and the difficult stages they've had, you know, it does take effect. As you know, each day some riders start getting tired, and the ones who are not recovering well, who are, you know, fatigue is setting in the last number of days, well, then you can be sure there's quite a number of tired riders in this group. And when they start pushing on in the end, as we've seen the last number of days, riders start to lose contact very quickly. There's immediately 25-30 riders lose contact at that 20-25 kilometres to go mark, and you know, they are the ones who have really been digging deep to get to the end of the stages. And certainly in the Pyrenees, I think that's where a lot of people suffered, haven't recovered fully. But yeah, I think there's a lot of riders here feeling good at the moment, and certainly the sprinters we will see there again. They are the ones that are really motivated for the day, and this is an opportunity for them at the beginning of this tour. That will be a day where you look at Tour, it's a day for the sprinters and their teams.
Laying it down, laying down the law as well. De la Place of Sawyer's son, Andy Schleck. It was a bike issue by the looks of things. And yet again, it looks like saddles are the problem. They can work loose over a day. Not supposed to. There we are. There was indeed a checklist for mechanics that they used to go through, and it was done away with due to the likelihood that riders could then refer to the checklist and say, look, you ticked that, and it didn't work. And the legal side of things, they said, all right, no checklist. So if something goes wrong, you can't prove that we said we checked it. Yes, it seems that when lawyers get involved, things change, which is sad. 21.3 kilometres to go, 42 seconds now, the gap, and it is all over for these escapees. And they're just busy trying to win a combativity award, as you can see. And as De La Place is getting very animated, I think he's really going for it. Maybe get an Oscar instead. We'll see. Just looking into the group, and Alexander Kristoff is there. He is a little pirate. Oh, he's actually quite a big pirate. Full Katusha. He's big of frame, and he can sprint, the Norwegian. But he usually has to do it by jumping onto other people's trains, or boats, if you want to continue the pirate analogy. So he will be there. Has been, in fact, for quite a number of times. And as we head, inevitably, you might think, for the sprint, I think, in fact, Kristoff finished 6th behind Bonnet, who went well. That's nice to note for Francis de Jeux. They've been a bit quiet in this tour, and are down as one of the teams that really have failed to deliver, along with Cofidis and Lampre, you may have seen at the top of the show. So watch out for Billy Bonnet. William Bonnet, Guillaume, no, it's William. Yeah, he may well go well. Kittel, Greipel, Cavendish, Sagan into Saint Malo. It finished with Bonnet in 5th and Kristoff in 6th, ahead of Samuel Dumoulin, who's also trying to work for his supper at the moment. There is Belkin and their green, white and black. Sean, we're used to seeing them at the front now.
Yes, well, they're having a really good tour. General classification wise at the moment, you know, they're very much up there with their two men, Mollema and Tendam. So that's the reason they're going to be staying on the front, to keep those two men out of danger here. For the sprint itself, you know, the stages we've had for the sprinters, they haven't been really up there at all, and you know, they haven't got a fast man with them in this tour. But talk about sprinters, you know, if you look at the Saint Malo finish, for example, there's a few guys who, you know, popped in there. Bonnet, you mentioned, Dumoulin was up there, Reza was up in the top 10 also. Van Poppel maybe could be one today.
Well, I thought it was Boy van Poppel earlier on that hampered Sagan at the intermediate sprint, but as you saw, it was not. It was Chris Bourquemont's. 19.5 to go, 36 seconds to gap now, and if you just look at the cadence that they're riding at, it is pacey. The roads, well, they're pretty good into town. No reason why they shouldn't be. The country roads in this part of the world generally tend to be excellent. The farms are vast, the estates, and so they're built to take quite heavy machinery. It can be a bit of a bind if you're trying to get round it on some of these roads with their lazy bends, as you can see. Talk about bends, Sean. That's going to be the focus at the end today. Why on earth did they put in 290 degrees late on? I know it's to mix things up a bit, but we were rather fearful of the safety element until we saw the width of the road. Are you still worried?
Well, certainly worried, and you know, as a rider, if you see the race manual and you study this morning, well, you would be concerned, and it's going to be important, the lead-out train. If you have a real good lead-out train in that final 500 or 600 metres, certainly before you come to, you know, the first right-hand bend, and then the last one, which is at 450 metres from the finish. If you have 2 or 3 riders can get to that point and lead into the corner, perfect situation. And I think the final corner with 450 metres to go, it's going to be a tailwind down the finishing straight. If you have 2 men that can take into that final corner, then that is the real good position to be in. But there's so many teams want to do that for their sprinter that it could be a concern, and we could see, you know, a little bit of problems in the fight for control to get into that the first right-hander.
When it gets rough, sometimes you need somebody who is a bit of a skirmisher, and he goes very quick, and he is in that vein, is Matt Goss. And Orica Green Edge, who've had an amazing Tour de France, held the jersey on with 2 different riders, Simon Gerrans, who won the stage into Calvi, and of course Daryl Impey of South Africa. And then of course they had that team time trial where they made it 2 in a row. And we thought perhaps they might go for the hat-trick into Marseille, but it didn't quite happen. But they've clearly opened their account today, and they're up towards the front, so don't expect them to be absent by any means. Top topiary around this chateau here. They clearly didn't have much to do of an evening, the gardeners, and so out they went with their secateurs and started clipping. And the Chateau de Villandry is apparently the top example of of topiary, if that's your thing. Why not? I think cycling, and today in particular it's going to be sprinting, and it will be enormous today. Right now they've knocked it back, Sean. I expected them to do that. Pace won't pick up. They'll gradually, slowly but surely start to crank in the speedy direction by the time we hit about 8 to go. There might be a hiatus, then they'll drop down to pace just a little bit with 5 to go, and then it's all hell for leather. It's a strange one that they build up to a pace, then ease a little bit, and then take that huge step forward. It's almost like they just regroup themselves mentally, make sure everyone's in the right place, and then go. Well,
it's a situation with the 4 men hanging out quite strong in front here. They're putting up a brave battle. The 4 men who've been out for most of the day, and the peloton, they can see them to the south there. So for the moment they have knocked it off, and they're going to leave them hanging out there for a number of kilometres more. And the teams are on the front. We can see Saxo Bank here on the right-hand side, and then we can see a number of teams up in the front of the bunch, and they are just going to hang in there, but not push on the pace, not up the pace at the moment. And that's the reason we're seeing, I think, the pace has dropped off a little bit.
Just saw Ryder Ejdal just handing a bit of pace to Bleldon Kadri, giving him a gentle push on the backside. Yes, transferring the energy, I think you might say. Here's Sky. They're staying safe at the moment, and that's what they need to do. They are carrying the yellow jersey there. Alberto Contador in amongst the Saxo Tinkoff team, and BMC still lively, although I think the chances of Cadel Evans winning the Tour de France again have ebbed significantly after his words about his performances while being healthy, surprising him. Sean, your career has to end at some point, and Kittel's, are the leaves falling? Has he reached the autumn?
Yes, I think he's reached the autumn a little time ago, and we see last year that he struggled in the Tour of France, and you know, this the mountain stages. He was a number of years ago. He was able to hang in there, but you know, not in the big attacks. He wasn't able to go with, and I think he's lost a bit more in that respect. He's losing a bit more time in the mountain stages, but also losing in the time trials. And I think, you know, it's going to be difficult to see Kittel Evans coming back. The Giro, he had a really good performance, and you can do that. Maybe one tour you can get through, and then when you go to your second one, not able to, you know, to repeat the performance anything like in the Giro, and it looks like that is the case for Kittel Evans. There's no way I can see him getting back and getting onto the podium. So it's now the question comes, like, how long more is his career going to go on for?
There you are. It's BMC as well, a team that's extraordinarily well funded. TJ Van Garderen disappointing in this year's Tour. Kittel Evans likewise. So who will they open the checkbook for is the question. Well, there are a number of riders. Does BMC sound like a Bradley Wiggins kind of team? I'm just wondering, just throwing it out there. Bradley very much part of the Sky team at the moment, but depends if Chris Froome looks like he's going to be their principal rider for next season as well, after victory here, if his form maintains. And they're quite hard when it comes to form. If you dip, then there are others waiting in the wings, but if Froome's good, will Bradley walk? .6 kilometres to go. Big checks over shoulders, and it is the end, I'm afraid, of our escape. So Race Radio will be declaring tout ensemble, all together, before you know. And then it's all about the purity of the end of a day such as this. Well, thanks for rolling along the road with us today. It does get more dramatic from here on in, as if we haven't had enough drama in this Tour. There's bound to be some transition days, of which this is one. A lot of people badge this up as a day that if you were going to miss one, then perhaps this would be it. But frankly, I think it will be remembered for the drama that's about to ensue in the next 13.9 kilometres. And perhaps you will have forgotten the role that we've had today. Been good to have you, though, and great to answer some of your questions. And best of luck to those of you entering the Sean Kenny autobiography competition on Twitter at Eurosport UK TV. Past yet another windbreak, it seems. The tall poplar trees here, commercial crop, albeit growing very slowly. Well, this gap between the last remnants of our escape is closing more slowly than I thought it would do. Just have two riders remaining up the road, and I don't know whether combativity is to the fore as far as they're concerned, but it seems like a minor prize, but one that Fletcher is determined to go for. And off he goes, using the motorcycle as a little bit of a foil, but it's the last bit for glory, I think. Back on Soleil, one of those teams that will be looking for funding fairly shortly. Mentioned that a lot, and it's important to get the brand up there, Sean, especially if money is a thought.
Well, of course, with Vacances Soleil, the sponsorship, we've heard quite a time ago that they were stopping sponsorship in cycling, and I haven't heard that, you know, they have found another sponsor to take over. So exposure is good, and you know, any exposure, I suppose, you know, in a Tour of France, such a big race, it's a good thing. But it's all about victory as well. The stage victory, you know, is so important. Or a jersey in the overall classifications at the end of the race. Fletcher, you know, he is a rider who the breakaways, he's a specialist in that, and Unfortunately, till now in this tour, the breakaways have not been successful. And if you had this group of riders who got a big advantage and they were allowed to battle on, well, then Fletcher would be a one. He is a real fighter in the end of a stage, and it just shows it here. He is the one who has the most energy left to go on and be the last one to be swallowed up by the peloton. But they're just allowed to hang out there, and we can see the advantage is growing out 22 seconds, but that's only for a time.
Smukilissu had an issue, a bike issue earlier on today, shooting the breeze. Peter Kenyick will be on duty in the mountains. Happy to share a few thoughts. Look how busy Orica Green Edge are. This is not about GC necessarily. This is about today. And Matt Goss is a quick man. And he's not been overly stretched, Sean. It might be a Gossy kind of day.
Well, it's certainly a day for Goss because it's for the sprinters, and again, we've seen him in the past stages of this race very much to the fore, but just not able to finish it off, as it hasn't been the case last year for him. They did a great amount of work for him in the flat stages, but always somebody just that little bit faster in the final for Goss. But you're going to keep on trying, and Orica Green Edge they've had a great tour. The pressure is off, so now anything they get from here on, you could really call it a bonus. And the team are going to work from again to see can they get him into a position and have a go for the sprint.
BMC are there. You can see Philippe Gilbert, the world champion's jersey with the rainbow stripes across his back, as Juan Antonio Fletcher continues to churn it, but this time alone. I think they will give him the combativity award because he's been so busy in the escapes in this tour so far. Will anyone go very late like Bakelants did on stage 2 and just confound the sprinters who are too busy looking at each other? Well, we're about to find out. 10.6 kilometres time, a little bit less than that, and that looks like a solid train being formed there by Orica Green Edge. The most prominent of them at the moment. They all work their way nicely around the street furniture and come back together. Mark Cavendish looked very relaxed when we were talking to him a little bit earlier on today, and that's great to see. I think there's been a lot of diplomacy around him to make sure that he's happy, and quite right too. Nobody wants to experience the negativity that was being washed over him along with some other fluids during the individual time trial to Saint-Michel. So yeah, we don't want that. 10 to go, and Fletcher still stretching his legs. He's got 19 seconds. Well, Antonio Fletcher is a battler, and he's the last man standing of an escape group of 5 riders that went up the road earlier on today. There was a sense of inevitability as the pace was upped by the pack, working as they are for the sprint trains. Will there be enough room for them when they come round the final bends? 2 of which, both 90 degrees, come in the last 650 metres today. Well, we are a long way down the road. It's been 218 kilometres to be done today. They have just 9.3 remaining as we head from Fougères to Tours. Sunshine has been an ever-present part of this year's Tour de France, and the wind likewise, I think you might say. And today, well, it blew up like a gale earlier on, and they're riding into a headwind now, Sean, as they come into town, so their efforts will be magnified.
Yes, it's going to be difficult, more difficult than it has been earlier on the day with the headwind, and we can see here, the riders in the front are putting in a big effort to keep the pace, quite high, and it's playing the waiting game, a lot of the sprinters, and the general classification men are hovering up there as well. So it is going to be a battle now for position on the front end of the bunch, as it always have been in these stages. When you get to the end with a big group of riders, when you have a mountain stage, of course, as we had, you have only maybe 15 or 20 riders in the leading group, and then it's so easy to to keep your position. But here it's going to get nervous, and everybody is concerned, general classification men, about losing a bit of time here, so they have to stay to the front. And the headwind will keep the lid on things a bit, and it will not be as fast, but We can see there's so many teams just coming into a picture and getting into contention here as we come to just over 8 kilometres to the finish.
Well, in around about 3 kilometres time, we start hitting a series of roundabouts. There are 3 to be dealt with, one at the 5 kilometre mark that introduces a bridge to us, and as they go over the Pont Saint-Sauveur over La Chère, we then hit another one with around about 4.5k to go, and then it's more or less straight all the way until the last roundabout at 650 meters remaining. That's one of the turns, so in itself that is a double turn to the right. Then we proceed about another 150-200 meters until we get the final turn, which is a 90-degree onto from that moment on an arrow straight run to the finish line, but it comes very late, that arrow straight form, Sean, and I think we're going to have some fireworks on those bends.
Yes, it's very possible we could see some fireworks, and you know, it's a pity we did not have the finish before we went into that the final 2 corners, which is about 700 meters before the finish. There's quite a long straight there, and it would be a perfect run in and make it that bit safer for everybody. But yeah, the organisation have decided, you know, to take 2 right-handers in the very end and the final one at 450 meters. You know, it is one where we could see some problems. If there's a team who can take it up at the very late moment, keep the pace very, very fast and just line out the peloton and put it almost in one line, well, then it takes the danger out of it much more. But if you have 3 teams battling for position on the front, 3 trains, well, then it gets a little bit complicated, and that's where we could see problems.
Well, it depends on who takes on the role then. Wouldn't be surprised to see Argus Shimano doing a lot of the work for Kittel. They're sprightly, very, very high their morale in their team. Of course, their man has won 2 stages so far, one into Saint Malo the day before the time trial, the individual time trial into Mont Saint-Michel. And so if it had to come by default, it would probably be them, but Lotto Belisol will be busy. As far as Omega Pharma Quick-Step are concerned, they've mistimed on a couple of occasions, and Mark Cavendish saying that they've gone a little bit early with poor old Steegmans, who does a fantastic job, but had to basically they ran out of men, and Steegmans had to go far too early into Saint Malo, and so they had a deficit there. And if they can keep together, it will be fantastic, because when they do function, they're unbeatable, but it's that functionality that we have question marks over. There is Saxo Tinkoff working for Alberto Contador to keep him in a very good safe place. Belkin in their green and black and white, not that far behind, working for their GC men as well, and they've got a fantastic performance going on with the likes of Laurence Ten Dam and of course Bogdan Mollema, who is running 3rd in the general classification, so well worth protecting. There is Argus Shimano, as also as if by magic they are of the main principal sprinters, of which we count 3, Greipel, Kittel and Cavendish, doing much of the work, but it's being shared now by Lotto Belisol. They have an interest in keeping some pace in this. Francis Dejeux working for their quick man today. Bill Bonnet, will he get up there? We'll see. He's probably not going to be foremost amongst your thoughts, but he can go quickly, but I think we'll need some help. Five kilometres to go. Edvald Bosenhagen can't be counted out either, but he's not been functioning at his swiftest of late. Peter Sagan most certainly will be in the frame. We know that, so watch out for him, as well as the pure undiluted sprinters. So they take the turn. That's the roundabout we were telling you about. They then have a short run before they go over Le Cher, which is the river. It's a long, wide bridge. Next turn, they go all the way round the clock. So they come in at 6 o'clock at the roundabout, exit at 3 o'clock, going the long way round. You'll get it. And then it's Boulevard Winston Churchill. Nice to see that name crop up. And then, whoa, in the corner, and one of the Orica boys has hit the deck. Oh, nightmare for him and possibly for their train. It can happen. Let's have a look. A little bit of fluid on the deck, perhaps. Well, at least they lost their front man and everyone stayed safe and went around him. One of the Lotto Belisol boys also going down. Bang. Well, if you're going to go down, make it like that. Smooth and slide out. Well, let's hope he's safe. So Orica Greenedge stay put where they were, and it's Matt Goss at the back of that trio now. Well, he's lost one of his gunmen. Let's see who else is shooting here for glory. And there, throwing come, is Orica, is Omega Pharma Quick Step, dead centre of your screen in their pale blue, black and white. Mark Cavendish has got, by the looks of it, 6 men in front of him, including Kwiatkowski in the white Young Riders jersey, just second behind Chavanel at the moment. And there, the lime green, including the green jersey of Peter Sagan, points leader, just getting themselves into position as well. There's not much space here. We knew there wouldn't be. 3.6 kilometres to go. The charge is on, and they're talking to each other, screaming at each other, holding line, and this is very, very good indeed. There is Sagan. He's got 2 men in front of him, both wearing lime green of Cannondale, but he has the points green jersey. Oh, and Matt Goss has been boxed in here, and he's starting to use some shoulders, and as he does, it is Kittel that comes, beg your pardon, it is Greipel that comes around in that German champion's jersey, and he's holding up against Mark Cavendish as we speak. Meanwhile, left-hand side of the road, there is the all-white of August Shimano, and they're the ones that are going to inject the hyper-pace, I'll be bound, earliest of all. They've got the will. Have they got the way? 3 kilometres to go. They're on the left-hand side of the road as we look at it correctly from this angle. Mark Cavendish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 man in his line. He's got real talent ahead of him. A lot of Belisol with Greipel just being trapped behind them at that side of the road. It doesn't open up that much, especially if they all choose the same line. And at the moment, they're all over towards the right-hand side.
Yes, we can see the team of Greipel. There's 4 or 5 riders in front of Greipel. Crash. Oh, down they go.
And it's a big one, and the world champion there as well, Philippe Gilbert, is also involved. Well, we said they were fighting for position, and a lot of Belisol riders are plenty there. They were out of position, and let's take a look at this. Greipel at the back of that line, and is he being caught out? I'm afraid so. Oh, he shimmies his way round. It means he's going to be on his own. So Greipel is up the road. There is the Japanese champion as well, Arashiro. Let's get back to the front, shall we? And hope that they're all okay. Back to the front we hope we get to very, very quickly, because the pace is rapidly approaching the end of today. And here it is. Boy Van Poppel was in that wreckage. So Greipel's got to do it on his own. I'm afraid most of his lead-out train have been taken out. August Shimano then, perhaps red-hot favourites with Kittel at the back of the line of white riders there in their white livery. Omega Pharma Quickstep to the barriers where they want to be. It's a safe-ish place. They were bossing that position, and it was the attempt of the Golden Shoulders of Lotto Belisol to get round that nullified their challenge and caused the problem there as well. Mixed in is Alexander Kristoff, the big Norwegian, wearing the red of Katusha. He's got a good chance today. So it's, you have to say, has Sagan today, even against some focus sprinters. Sagan and Cavendish side by side at the moment, and I'm looking deep into this group to find Greipel, and I can't see him at the moment. In fact, here he comes, fighting his way back through. But Kittel and August Shimano, likewise, with work to do. Everybody has, with 1 to go. Underneath the Flamme Rouge, plenty to play for, still short.
Yes, plenty to play for. We can see is Omega Pharma and August Shimano are taking it up, but Cannondale are getting involved now as we go into the first right-hander.
Well, I don't see Greipel. I think as he got stuck behind that, there's too much ground to make up, and suddenly the pace is injected, and it is August Shimano in their white jerseys that go for it. They're dragging Sagan, who's now riding alone in the lime green. They're having a look at this, and they have a deep look. Ferrari's also involved here as they sail round this first of the corners. Now they're running out of time, running out of space, running out of road. Mark Cavendish has got Stigmans. Stigmans is punching a big hole in the air, and Mark Cavendish is got at the back of him now. It is the line that beckons, and it is Mark Cavendish that hits the front, and he charges away. Cav is in control, is he? Here comes Kittel, and here comes Sagan. The line beckons. Oh, I think he might have been pipped. My goodness, I think Kittel got up for the very last of that. That was amazing. Cavendish said that he was the man that's coming at the moment. Well, we'll have to get a photo on that. That was drama. However close that was, Sean.
Kittel
it was amazingly close. Kittel has nailed it at the very death.
Yes, as we can see here, looked like Cavendish was going to take it, but Kittel once again, as we see 2 days ago, just coming in them final meters. What a power that guy has.
Quite simply remarkable. Mark Cavendish grimaced and looked over, and no celebration from him. Well, no celebration either for Andre Greipel, who's been caught out. That was one heck of a finish, Sean.
Yes, what a finish, and what a good job by Omega Pharma Quickstep. Stegman's taking it up at the perfect moment. Cavendish getting a real good lead out, but Kittel just coming in them final meters once again. You know, we see it in Saint Malo. He did it again in that final 30-40 meters, just coming so powerful, and you could see the two riders. It'll be nice to see the photo finish. I think it's going to be a real tight one, because none of them, you know, went for the victory salute. So that tells, and those guys can see it was a really tight one.
It was tight. It was dangerous. We had some tumbles at the roundabout. Thankfully, as yet, no reports of injuries. I've got a feeling that one of those Lotto Belisol boys really took a bad hit, and we hope that he will be okay. Sean's going to take his leave and head down to talk to the great and the good. The run into Tours, well, we suggested it might be dangerous at the end. In the end, the danger was a little bit earlier than we suspected. And across the line come those brave souls who've contested today. And some big names still heading in right now. Lots of stretching of shoulders, stretching his legs. Kittel once again. He's won 3 stages on this Tour de France. Mark Cavendish, who was in relaxed mood at the top of the day, saying, when asked who he thought his greatest rival was, he said, no doubt about it, Kittel. He's on fantastic form, and he showed that today. This is the moment that it all went wrong for Greipel. They were caught out of position. We'd seen that. They were trapped at the side of the road, and I think it was a curb touch that produced this. Now, you can see that a number of riders were obviously caught up in it, and I actually think, now that I'm looking at it, that Greipel may well have hit the deck. Thought he'd sailed it, managed to get his way round. We'll get confirmation, of course, on all of that. But the biggest smile and the broadest shoulders, it seems, and the strongest legs at the end of the day belong to that man. Well, in that situation, you'd have expected Mark Cavendish to deliver. He's still, as far as the numbers are concerned, the greatest sprinter out there, but not today. Look at this. And look at one last look by Mark Cavendish. Terrific performance. And chapeau to Argus Shimano as a team, I think, today. Difficult run-in. They delivered. Well, a lot caught out in that crash. You can understand why. It's his Edvald Bosenhagen holding his clavicle. I don't think he's on the radio. Oh dear, because the radio is hanging out. If he's got a problem, that's not great for Sky. Confirmation of how they finished, and there it was. It was half a wheel in the end. Sagan in 3rd place behind Mark Cavendish, but Kittel victorious once more. One more look from the helicopter, the overhead shot, as they charge the line. Stegman's leading out, punching a huge hole in the air as he does, and Mark Cavendish on his wheel. And at this moment, you thought, Mark Cavendish, surely. That's the point when he released himself. Came out from behind Stegman's, but Kittel was onto him. And just look at the thighs of the man. There's the line. Well, while they continue to play, it's a hiatus in hostilities, but only just for the peloton. Here's your stage. Kittel takes it ahead of Cavendish, Sagan. Christoph got up there again, and Ferrari. Darrell Impey doing a good job for Orica Greenedge in the end, after what was a brutal finish for some. Sami Dumoulin also just edging into the top 10.